In today's video, we're going to get an excellent preview of 4Podcast from Weebler, because instead of me showing someone else's extension, someone smart who knows about it is going to show it, because Yannick Gaultier is here, and you can see him on the screen, and we're going to get to him in just a second. Hey there, Joomla fans. Tim Davis here. I'm a Joomla fan too. Thanks for tuning in to Watch Me Work live stream number 189 here on the Basic Joomla Tutorials YouTube channel, where I show you my favorite extensions, tools, and tips for building and maintaining Joomla sites. I also work on them, build them, maintain them, migrate them to Joomla 4. So if you're looking to hire someone short-term or long-term, or even if you're just stuck, send me an email, tim@cybersalt.com. Thanks to our channel sponsor for today's video, sponsoring today's video, mysites.guru. Do you have a Joomla site? Of course you do. Head on over to mysites.guru and get a free site audit for your Joomla site. And while you're there, you can check out all the tools and information that'll save you time and money managing lots of Joomla sites, or even just one. They even have an account for just one. So check that out, mysites.guru. All right, so we will cut to the chase right here. Hello, Yannick. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Thank you very much.
And thanks actually for volunteering to come on. You actually said, hey, I've got a new extension, I'd like to show it. And that warmed the cockles of my heart, because I like to have people on. So, and
yeah, it's actually, we don't have new extensions that often. So it was really a case of, it's really exceptional for us. So yeah, we have extensions that last like 10 years or more.
Yeah.
So a new one is not that often.
Yeah, no, and Weebler has some of the extensions that I've used the longest in Joomla, and also I was just thinking, man, it is almost 3 years since you and I were at the Forum for the Future in Spain, and I still enjoy our the time we spent there together, especially at breakfast I got to have with you, sitting and talking about things. So that was good. So are you going to come to Joomla Day USA this year in April?
Yeah, I would like that, but that's quite some distance.
Yeah,
that's quite some distance. The West Coast would be okay, kind of okay, but Texas, that's quite a bit of more traveling and time and so on. So yeah, it's undecided yet. I sure hope to actually speak there, but maybe it's going to be remotely. I don't know. I have offered, I have applied for speaking. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, so everybody, the link to 4Podcast is pinned at the top of the chat, and I will put it in the video description later on. I just realized that I did not do that when I set this up. But okay, Yannick, go ahead, take it away, and show us 4Podcast.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to share my screen right away. I assume this is working okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good. I can hear you, and we can see you, and you're in the bottom right hand corner, so I'm just going to clear some things out there.
Yeah, that's how things should be, so we're good. Okay, so like I said earlier, feel free to interrupt and ask any question, either from you or from the chat. I don't have like slides or anything, because it's really an easy to use extension, and the point is here to just show how easy to use. So we're gonna have that demonstration where I'll be making up a Teams podcast, because you're soon to be a podcaster, I guess.
Again?
So this is gonna be a theme.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't have your voice recorded, so it's gonna be, we're gonna have to pretend a little bit. But okay, so I still wanted to get started a little bit with where this comes from, because at Weebler, and Weebler is mostly me actually, we are an SEO company, so we do things for SEO and for Joomla SEO, and part of that is components like 4Ceph and 4SEO, which are really doing the technical work of SEO. But there is also content. SEO is mostly content, if you think about the root of it. And so part of what I want to do is provide or help putting content out there where it will be seen, because a lot of SEO is about getting your content into the hands of other people or under their eyes. So to make this a bit shorter, many of us have a blog. whether you have an e-commerce, whether you're dealing with anything else. Many people have a blog to talk about what they are doing. And we do have a blog, like you can see here, the main title for the blog. And just a few months ago, this was called just blog, and the URL actually is still blog, because URLs never should change. And we had a blog, and it was a regular blog, and I was not convinced, and analytics was not telling me that we had a lot of readership. So I believe we had a decent content, and people would be interested by reading what we wanted to explain, but not that many people were doing it. And at some point, I decided I would try to turn this blog into a podcast, or a blog podcast, a mixture of the two. And the goal being that people don't read that much. People, are flooded with emails telling us what to read and what to do. But today, many people are actually, and I'm the first of them, listening to podcasts, because you can listen to a podcast while you're, commuting to work, while you're, jogging in the park or whatever. And you can do that from your phone. It's really easy. And I think this is a very good way to put your content out to people. So this is what I did. And a few months back, I created what you see working here on our blog podcast, which is that each article in the blog is actually both. Let me click on the continue reading so that you can see the actual post. This is the latest post. And you got a really traditional blog post format with a header and with some text talking about something. And I realized that most of the time, this content here can be read, but it's also something that can be spoken most of the time. Most of the content we put out can be just listened to. You need links, you need sometimes images, and many times you'll have links to the blog post, but that's exactly what we are looking for. So we created a player. And we created a player, and we made it quite easy for me to create episodes, and this is how it works. You have the actual blog post, and you have the player here, which is very visible. Let's listen to how it works. About 4Podcasts, our new and latest podcast extension. Well, people don't read anymore. I'm sure you've. So this is how you listen to it on your own website. But the whole point, I believe, is that with 4Podcasts, you can create an actual podcast. And the end goal being that it's shared on, you can register it with Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, so that people actually can get it onto your phone. For instance, our podcast is registered everywhere, and eventually this is what you can get with just this extension. You can get all of this registered on Spotify, and being on Spotify, being on Apple, being on Google means that your blog, because this is essentially a blog, is exposed to millions of people. Of course, we all know that there are not millions of people doing Joomla websites, but of course, this is not just for people. In my case, it's for people doing Joomla websites, but in other people, for everybody having Joomla websites, this exposes their content to millions of people potentially. So this is what we are trying to achieve here. Okay. You'll find more details, of course, on the link you're going to share on the product page for podcast here. You have all details here. So now we can switch to a quick demo. I have here a Joomla 4 website. It's pretty much a stock one. I think I play a little bit with the columns, number, and things like that. But otherwise, it's a standard. Joomla site. So the first thing we're going to do, obviously, I should have done that earlier actually, is to install the plugin. It's a single plugin. And then we are going to prepare our podcasts. This plugin, what it does is that it provides a custom field, a specific custom field dedicated to creating podcasts. It means for you, the podcast is a category, a regular Joomla content category, and episodes are just regular articles. The consequence to that is that you already know how to write and create these episodes. And most importantly, they're going to blend into your template. There's no styling to do. It's not like a new component where you need to do some CSS or anything. It's just gonna work out of the box because it's just regular articles. So you can style them as a blog or exactly as you see fit. Just for the sake of the example, this is a standard Joomla website. So we already have a blog with some standard content, and I'm going to use that category, which we can see here. Categories, there's the blog here. I'm going to use that category to host my blog. Note that this category already have some content, so that's not a problem at all. I'm just going to rename it to podcast for the sake of the demonstration. But that's it. You just need a category and you dedicate that category to your podcast. And needless to say, you can also have several podcasts on the same website. It's totally fine. You can have a podcast for
different podcasts, different categories.
Exactly. You just need a category and you put articles in there, and that's your podcast. So from there, what we are going to do is first create a group, a custom field group dedicated to our podcast. You don't need to do that, but I find that very much nicer on the eye when you're actually creating the episodes later on. It visually separates the information about the podcast episode. So bear with me. I'm just going to create a group here, a custom field group, and call it Teams Podcast, and that's it. And then, because we already have our blog category, our blog menu item, I don't need to create all that. If you were starting from scratch, beside the category, you would also probably create a menu item to a regular menu item to that category, so that you can actually see your podcast. But I'm reusing an existing category, so I don't need to do that. So the next step of the initial setup is to create our custom field. And so I'm going to click on new. I'm going to name this custom field something like that. And the important thing is here that you need to select as a type, you need the 4Podcast item as the type. That's it.
So you have a field type for
exactly.
podcast.
I have an entire custom field that's made up several pieces of information, but the only thing you have to do is create a custom field of type podcast. The second important thing is that we need to assign it to our category. We need to say this particular custom field is for this category. So if you want to run multiple podcasts, you'll use another category. You'll just create multiple podcast fields. That's it. Okay, so there are a few fields here. Not all of them are required. Most of them you see at the top here are just regular Joomla custom fields. So I'm not going to go through that. You need to give the show name here. An email, that's not required technically, but if you want to share on Spotify or Apple, you'll need that. The address of the RSS feed will be shown later when I save. I need to put here the show URL. The show URL is going to be the blog, the address where my category and the articles can be found. So I'm just going to put that here. And Teams very own podcast. There's a description. That's up to you. You need to have an image. It needs to be a large image. So I don't have a large image. I'm just going to use one of the the Weebler logo that I have here. But that's it. You need to select a category. Technology by default can be anything, but it needs to come from the official iTunes list. At least if you want to share it on iTunes and on Spotify and the other, they all use the same list. There are a few things you need to say. Who is the author? You might have a copyright. All of this is 2023. And you can add an episode footer, which is something that will be appended to each episode, meaning you can put there a link to your website or anything you like. I'm going to skip that. There's some analytics that you can have, some options, several options as to what you can display on your website. But I'm going to skip over that, and I'm just going to save.
Don't forget to assign the field group.
Yeah, you are absolutely right.
I knew to watch that from me doing it so many times.
Yeah, I don't do it that often actually. So, yeah, thanks for that. Okay, so now we have a category, we have a custom field, we have a menu item to show that category. The only thing we need to get started really and to have an episode is to just add an article. So this is going to be our first episode. I'm going to skip the description. And so the important thing here is to assign it to our podcast category. And when you do that, then Teams podcast episode appears here. That's why you want to have a custom field group so that all our information is grouped under a specific tab. If you don't create a group, then all the fields are going to be there, but they're going to be mixed up maybe with other custom fields that you may have on the site at the moment. I hope I'm not... Okay, so let's go. You can write some stuff here. That's going to be... Sorry. Yeah. So you have you can write things here. They're going to be, again, this is a regular article, so it's going to be appearing on the website normally. Now about the podcast information. There are a few things that are mandatory. There are quite a few things you can say, but a few of them only are mandatory. You need to. I'm going to make a small. Okay, I kind of missed something here. I should have done earlier. So the thing you need to prepare an episode, of course, let me open a new window, is that you need to have some audio. You need to have a media file. You need to speak about something. We don't require much with respect to the audio, but the only thing you need to have really is an MP3 file. You can use other file formats, but most of the time it's going to be an MP3 file. So how do you get that? It's really up to you. You can record with your, it can be as simple as recording with your phone. You can have a more sophisticated setup with like a big microphone like I have, other things. In the end, what you need is a properly recorded MP3 file, and you need to have that file uploaded to somewhere on the internet. The simplest way, and this is what we are going to do here, is just to upload it to your website, your very own website. But you can also put it up on Cloudflare or Amazon S3, anywhere. It doesn't matter for us, for 4Podcast, as long as you have a URL to that file. So let me show you how I have a sample MP3 file. I'm going to upload it using the Media Manager. And before I can do that, there's a little trick with Joomla 4. I need to go to the options, and I need to allow uploading MP3. So MP3 extension is, I think, already allowed by default, but it needs to be part of the allowed extensions list. It also needs to be a legal audio extensions. You can see MP3 here, but and something that's not there, you also need to add the type audio/MPEG as a legal MIME types.
Okay.
And that's not there by default. And that can trip you because it will prevent the the default media manager to upload media MP3. So assuming you've done that, you just upload your file. I have an MP3 here, despite being a Teams podcast. This is going to be my voice. And so my file is here. And that's all I need, basically. if I click this button here, the Joomla Media Manager is going to give me a link to that file. I can copy it. That's it. And now I can go back to my article and tell 4Podcast that this particular, our first episode is going to be, our first episode here. This is our statistics that will be filled up automatically later on. And here, this is where I need to paste the full URL to the MP3 file. Now I need two things. I hope to improve things there to automate it a little bit more, but I need two information. I need the duration of the MP3, its runtime, and I need the file length. I am hoping that very soon I'll be able to get that. So the best way I found, especially if you're on Windows, I'm not familiar enough with the Mac, but if you're on Windows, it's really easy to get there, and you can get that information by opening the property, and the property will tell you exactly how many bytes is that file. So I can just put that here, and again in the details I'm gonna see the duration. Duration is 1 minute and 59 seconds, so that's all I need, and I'm just going to put here 1 minute and 59 seconds, and we're pretty much there. We can add another another description here. We can add subtitles. There are many things. I'm going to skip over that. We can add an image specific to that episode. Let's see. I'm going to just use some of the sample data, maybe. Yeah, this one. Why not? Again, there are some details, some options as to what you want to display. We are an SEO company, so we're going to generate some structured data about the podcast so that Google can find it. And there are some display options where you can, I'll show you that later, but the player, the audio player has several colors and several themes you can use. The user can pick them all their own, but you can select the default value here, and you can have some custom CSS if you feel like it. So, yeah, there was no error. That's great. Here we go. We have a podcast. Our first episode is here. Of course, all of these details maybe you don't want, but that's just the regular Joomla 4 output and display. Your own template will have a different output. These are all optionals, but your podcast is here. You've got your description, and you can play it. Hi there, Yannick speaking. This is a quick post to. Okay, cool. So this was Yannick speaking and not Tim, but I didn't have enough time to prepare that. So
that's because they could tell because I have a stronger accent.
Yeah, I do have a Canadian accent, I think.
Yeah, French Canadian accent.
Yeah. Okay, so just I'm nearly done. The only thing, about the player itself, it's custom made. It's not a library or anything. It's custom made for our purpose. It's fully responsive. It has some sharing options. You can share to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, on WhatsApp, and you can get a link to this RSS feed that's defining your podcast. You can configure all of that in the options, and there is you can expand it. Obviously, we are on a very small screen here because I'm on 2 columns, and you have the usual controls where you can start or stop, get back 10 seconds, get forward 30 seconds. You can play faster or slower. You can change the sequence through the various colors that are available, color theme. Okay, and you can switch on, you can change the volume and so on. There you go. Maybe I was actually a bit too loud. And that's pretty much it. That's how you you create a podcast on Joomla. I just wanted to mention one thing. This link I copied here. This is the link. It's an RSS feed link, and you can see it here. But it's a separate RSS feed from your regular Joomla category RSS feed, and this is the link you need, because it's a separate feed, because it has some special information about each episode in the podcast. And this is the link that you are going to submit to Apple, Google, and the other podcasting platforms. And this is basically the only thing you need to become available on their platforms, and therefore on your visitors or your users' phone.
Cool. Now,
so yeah, that's about it for me.
About the RSS feed, is there a link that you can use where iTunes will automatically pick up all of your latest episodes, or do you have to add each one each time?
No, that's exactly what it is. It's an RSS feed, so it works like any RSS feed. Like your existing your Joomla site already produces an RSS feed for your category, and that's where RSS feeds readers get the information about any new episodes. Like what I'm showing here.
I was just thinking, because that was the link you got off of the episode, but that was actually that's just the RSS link for the whole podcast.
Yeah, because you don't really like. Let me go to the actual blog post. If you want to share the episode, then you just share that URL, because it's just the article URL. Okay, so I had to make a choice, and what I share here is the actual blog. The actual podcast URL, because if you get that URL, you get everything. You get all the links.
Yeah. So you can create a profile on say Spotify, and then you put in that link as RSS.
Exactly.
Feed, and then it's just all automatic. Okay, cool.
Exactly. They are going to ask for an image, pretty much the same thing that we needed to create the podcast in the first place. They're going to ask for a large image, for your name, for the name of an author, and for the URL of the website, and for the URL of the RSS feed. And the only things that are really required are this URL for the RSS feed, the image, and a name. And it takes a few hours or a couple of days for the most cautious ones, like Apple.
Yeah.
Google is actually the longest I found, but it just work.
Nice.
So that's it.
Well, we got a bunch of questions here, so I'm going to go up to the top. Well, first I've been saying hi to people here. Didn't say hi to Ivor. Hello, Ivor. Okay, let's see. Just tried to. Okay. Ivor had a question. Can you use text to speech for converting your existing blog posts? So that's not something that you would. Are you aware of a program that will record text to speech to an MP3 that you could then use?
Okay. So I don't care, from a podcast standpoint, I don't really care how the MP3 was produced. So you can use, there are some software for that. Actually, your browser can basically just read out loud stuff like that. So my phone can do some of it. I would very strongly advise against that. Very, very strongly, because you have to remember the goal of this. The goal is that you share, you make your content available to people, and they are going to listen on it on their phone while doing something else. So the last thing I want, I believe, is a robot talking to them. These voices are really very, very good today. They are very good, but they are not anywhere near a human being actually speaking and talking. Even if you read the text, even if I read the text, it's going to be much more lively than anything a robot's going to be able to put out. And there is actually a catch. I tried many of them, and I can tell you that none of them can pronounce forcef or for SEO, or even worse, SH4 forcef properly. So if you have or Gaultier, or maybe Cybersalt, I don't know, maybe Cybersalt is going to be easier.
The funny thing is, I was watching one of your videos, and I heard you saying forcef, and I have forever been saying for SEF, and then I thought, well, that's way easier to say forcef. So and so even not only can the robots not say it, but apparently I can't say it either. So.
I hope forcef is much easier to pronounce than SH4 forcef.
Now, Ivor, if you did want to record text to speech, like Yannick said, you can play it in a browser, but you can download Audacity. It's free software, and it will record audio on your computer. So you could, if you really want to. I know sometimes people that if they want to put something in. If they don't speak English and they really want to have something English for people to listen to, then that is the best option available to them. And so Audacity would record it. But
I can share something here. One of the last I tried, there's another one, but I can't recall the name. So one of the last I tried is by a company called Revoicer, and they do exactly that. You paste some text, you select a voice, and they speak out your text, and it's really good, as long as you don't have any word that are not out of the common language, things like product names and cities and things like that. They're not going to be good at it. It's really bad.
I watched a video the other day for a site that you train the AI voice with your own voice, and the woman that was doing it played the sample, and you could tell it was a robot, but I'll tell you, it did sound like her. It sounded like a robot, but that was impressive. So
I did that also because somebody shared such and I did the training, shared such a link with me, and I did the training. But the place where I stumbled is always pronouncing the names or the words that are not just regular English names or words. Like, again, people's names, product names, and things like that. That's really terrible, and I just can't use them myself because of that.
Yeah, and Chuck points out here, isn't text-to-speech available in Joomla 4 already in accessibility? And Bjorn said, yes, it is. So. Okay, Michael asks, can file size and duration fields be made optional?
No, they cannot be made optional. But what I will do, hopefully, reasonably soon.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, I have the entire night, so that's good. What will happen is that when you paste in the URL of your file, there'll be a button here called fetch or preview or whatever, and that will load the file in the background and extract the duration and the length automatically. So this is what will happen. Hopefully, in the next few weeks, this will happen.
Cool.
So make it pretty easily, but they are absolutely required. You need to have that information in the RSS feed. This is a required element of the RSS feed. So we can't get around that, but we can make it much easier to figure it out.
And Michael also asked, and this is the question I asked you before to make sure we got to it before we went live here. He says he has a few J4 community sites. Will 4Podcast allow members to create their own podcasts and display them on their profile pages?
Okay, so at the moment, I don't think so, because I have to dig a bit deeper into that. At the moment, no, because it's attached to a Joomla article and a Joomla category, and it works on that basis. Because The way you're saying it, or the question is formed, is that it should be attached to a user rather than, an article, unless you somehow provide the user the ability to create content and to have their own category that's not shared with somebody else. Then you can, of course, create a custom field for them, but then you would need a custom field per user.
Okay.
So that'd be a bit. So it depends on what we are talking about. If we are talking about a company that wants to have 4 or 5 employees, or anywhere, an organization that wants to have 4 or 5 people having each their own blog, then it can be managed with a few categories, can be done by hand. If you want to attach that to a user, somebody who registered on the site and maybe paid something, that's not how it's designed right now. It's attached to a regular article and a regular category. I'm not saying it cannot be done, but that's not how it's been.
It requires some human effort to set it up.
At the moment, it can only be attached to an article in a category, and an article category, not to a user.
Yeah.
So,
but what I meant was that you couldn't say, "Hey, everybody, if you want to have your own blog, you can do that." Now do that. It would be like, if you'd like to have your own blog, let me know, and I will set it up with your own category, and only they could add it.
Or to put it the other way around, if you provide a blog to your users already, somehow, I don't know how, then you can put a custom field there so that this blog is also a podcast.
Yeah.
But you need to make them, to provide them with a blog, which I can't do right now. I mean, I'm not into that actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So not exactly.
I wrote some. I wrote a few notes. I don't see any other questions there. I like that. Yeah, what you said at the beginning, because I was kind of confused. I thought, 4Podcast, that almost seems kind of off-brand for you because you're doing so many things with SEO. Excuse me. With SEO and SEF. But then when I really liked your opening there when you said it's about content and getting in front of people, and a lot of people, even now I still run into people that say, what can I do to kind of, they want to trick their way to the top of the algorithm, right? And I just say to them, just make content, just put it out there, and that's a really great approach to have another form of content.
And to complement on that, I would like to say that initially, and for the last couple of years, I got into making videos because people like to watch videos, and videos are really informative because you've got, at the same time, you can speak, you can explain things, and you can show things. However, making a good quality video, it takes an enormous amount of time. And I didn't realize at first, but then when I started doing it, I realized that recording a podcast can be quite easy actually, and quite fast. You basically don't need any editing. If you have a good setup, you need to work a bit on that and have a good setup, something that's really easy to use for you. But then you just prepare your text, you read or you improvise a little bit, but you just record and it's ready. You save. You got an MP3 file, and it's really a matter of sure, you need to come up with the content. You need to come up with something to say, but it's really easy.
Yeah, and once you get pretty good at editing too. Like if you're using Audacity or whatever, you see the waves and you start to see long pauses, or that you start to recognize even when you say or something, and you can go through and sort of fix things up, little mistakes like that. Also,
what I'm doing is really usually really short, like 3 to, I think one of them is more than 10 minutes. And in this case, if there's a mistake, I misspoke or something, most cases I just start from scratch.
Oh, okay.
Because it's much easier than editing.
Yeah.
And I just start from scratch. And normally, most of them I did in one take, because it's okay. I read the text.
Yeah, yeah.
If you read the text the first time and the second time you record, most of the time it's good.
Yeah, and you're able to look at the screen, and you don't have to worry about your face as if you're
exactly
doing video or stuff like that too. So.
Your hair, all of that.
Yeah, we were talking about that before, but yeah, that's really cool. Now, Chuck says he's interested. Where does he start with a good platform for podcasts? So 4Podcasts is using your site, is using your Joomla site as the platform for the playback. And then, as you showed, you can share the RSS feed after you create in different places. So what are some of the good platforms? What are the platforms that you think everybody should share their podcast to? If they're using 4Podcasts, where should they go and create one and just upload the graphic and the RSS feed?
Okay. You create it. It's basically like a blog or just your website. When you want to share it, you have some content, you just want to share it on as many platforms as you can. So the big one is Apple, iTunes, Apple, and Google Podcast, and Spotify. And then there is Pocket Casts, there is iHeartRadio. Then it starts to depend a little bit on where you are, whether and which country you are on and so on. So it may varies. Just go everywhere you can. Remember that these are just distribution platform. They actually don't host your MP3. Everybody's going to go back to your site, transparently. You don't see that, but they are going to load the MP3 from your site or from the URL you put your site, your MP3 on. So just share everywhere, but just have Apple, Google, Spotify, Pocket Casts. You're pretty good already, I think. Okay, so now with the mentioning it, I have now that you ask it, I have a documentation. On that documentation, I have a page on distribution and a few things. And here is a list of common platforms. I have listed Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon Music also has started to have a podcast dedicated section. Stitcher is pretty big, not as well known, in Europe, but I understand it's pretty big. Deezer, iHeartRadio, and Podchaser, and any platform that's really common around you. It doesn't cost anything, basically. It's just the time of creating an account and getting, provided information and providing them with the RSS feed. It doesn't cost anything. Just great. Just to keep on going with the documentation, I have a page on a few recording tips that it's my experience of doing both podcast and videos over the last few years. So here you are. The golden rule.
You're not sharing your screen right now, just in case you.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So let me do that again. Documentation. You get it there from the website on the documentation page. You've got a getting started video. And we have a page on distribution, how to distribute your podcast once you've created it. And in there, we have a list of platforms and a few, comments on that. Mm-hmm. And then what I was saying is we also have a recording tips page with a few things I learned over the last 2 years doing both videos and audio. Yeah. The main one, do not use your webcam microphone. And another main one, speak into your microphone. Okay, get the microphone as close as possible to your mouth. But using your smartphone is totally fine most of the time. Just need to be in a quiet place and so on. You pay attention to the audio quality. Nobody wants to listen to something that sounds really, really bad with a lot of noises and scratching.
That's what they say about videos. People will forgive you for having poor video, but they won't for having poor audio. So
exactly. And here you got only audio, so you can't make up with the visuals.
Yeah.
for the bad audio. You just have audio. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Great.
here,
Well, yeah, and as far as adding your podcast to different locations, since if you're using your Joomla site as the main platform, there's no rush to add it to every platform right at the beginning, because you might find a new one and add it a month down the road, and all your episodes are going to show up there from the RSS feed anyways. So
yep, absolutely.
good. All right. Well, Chuck says thank you, and Michael Squared says thanks, guys. Nice information presentation, and yeah. Hey, what would you recommend for people that already have a podcast that say it's not hosted on their site, but they'd like to start showing those episodes inside on their Joomla site? I know you could just do that with straightforward articles by just embedding the player from the other podcast sites, but do you see a use for 4Podcast in that sense as well?
No, it's not at the moment. It's not the goal. We could do that if okay. I started like that, so it's not impossible. What would need to be done is to basically release just the audio player as an independent module where you can say play this URL, and then you would provide the URL of your MP3 file. But if you think about it,
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. But if you think about it, if you do that for each of your episodes, you're just as well, you're just as good as move your podcast to your site, because you're going to have to recreate an article anyway for each episode.
Yeah.
So
you could create a custom field too, where you put the embed code for that episode on the other one. But then when you're adding new ones, it would be mix and match. You're right.
Yeah. The fully featured version of that would be to create an extension where you only paste the RSS feed from your other platform, because this other platform also has something like that.
Yeah.
And our Joomla extension would read that and then create some pages, whatever, where each episode will be displayed. But but that would be great. But that's not something I want to get into, because my goal is to have Joomla content out.
Right.
This is where the benefit is for your SEO. So that's what I want to do, and so that's not where I want to move in the future. There are a few things to be done still with 4Podcast, things to improve, and so.
Yeah. No, but it's great, and it's nice. I can't think of anything that out of the box like this that exists for Joomla for managing, that's dedicated to podcasts, and the player looks really good, and the sharing tools are there. It's all really nice. So for people that don't want to get all fancy or detailed and try to manhandle it, there's a few sets to start up, and then once you have those buttons for file size and playing time, it's going to be even easier. But that's really good.
Yeah, that's the part that's still a bit tricky. You need to copy paste from your, I don't know how it works on a Mac, but I'm pretty sure that if you have the MP3 file on your Mac, you can also probably get the duration and the file size quite easily. But it's annoying.
Well, and your player, the player there already sees the length automatically, so something's happening there. But
okay, so yeah, the player, that's exactly what I plan on doing. I will have this player embedded in the, maybe not this player, maybe a simplified one, but embedded in the backend. And when you enter the URL and you click the button, then it will try to load. And when we do that, then we have the length and the duration. It's just, work.
Okay, and Michael Cuff, not Michael Squared, says, thank you, Yannick. He listens to a lot of podcasts, but his boring voice would probably not make a great one. So, I don't know. I mean, there's people that have YouTube videos and podcasts just squishing things to make the sound to help people relax. So, Michael, if you've got a voice that is boring, people might want to listen to it just to fall asleep.
Everything that gets your content out is great.
Monetize whatever you've got. That's what I say. It's a big world out there. There's always someone that's interested in what you're interested in. All right. Well, that's probably a good point to stop. My cough left over from being sick has been behaving itself, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, Yannick, thanks for showing that to us, and thanks for making that extension. It's really, really cool, and
Thank you.
And for your other extensions too. Now, so we'll wrap it up there. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Oh, by the way, Happy New Year, everyone. I guess I didn't even say that at the beginning. It's the first live stream of the new year. Hope that 2023 is good for all of you. And so, as usual, as we wrap things up, thanks for your support of this channel, for tuning in. I hope that wherever you are, be it morning, afternoon, evening, or tomorrow, that this finds you well. And until the next time, enjoy your Joomla sites, and God bless.